Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to day 6 of build week. I'm hoping to get close to finishing this today. We made about 45% progress on the decoration yesterday. Tomorrow you'll see the actual release of the level on a premiere on YouTube. Make sure you get there. I still got some stuff to tweak with the beginning, but the first thing I want to do is brush up on this robot before I start decorating anything else, because I feel like this effect isn't really enough. I need something else there in the background because this doesn't live up to the other ones. This should be something pretty easy to fix. I'm going to put half opacity black arrows on the left hand side, which are going to move to the right. The mask is on B3-1, so I want this to be on the very top of B4, I think. Give it a brand new group, 320. And I'll just put a move trigger right underneath this portal that just moves it along for 20 seconds just to make sure it covers the whole part. Just going to go about 400 blocks. I've moved the arrows up one layer to allow for some blending. It's now on 25% opacity blending white. I still think it looks a little bit weird. I think it just works best when it's subtle, especially when it goes into this void. Pretty much it's just on really low opacity black. I could probably get away with changing the easing on this to something like bounce, just to kind of reflect the kind of background noises in the song. That kind of syncs pretty well too with how the portals are laid out. I like that. Then I can literally just go and toggle that on this portal since the overlay goes to full opacity. So right in line with this trigger, we are going to toggle 320, and that's that. I do have an idea of what I want to do in this wave. At points like this, where the ceiling and the ground goes in like a V shape, I want to fill in the edges with mini blocks like these. So I've got a 1 block wide gap in the middle of 2 blocks, and I want to put arrows in like that. We are well on our way with decorating this just by having those little arrows in between. There's not many instances that you get those like V-shaped corridors because of how I've structured it, which allows me to vary up pretty nicely. Okay, I've added in some nice little ground spikes. These are both on 9 and they're going to get added to group 322, which is a Koryo song. I want these to just pulse on and off in the wave to white and then out of white. I don't know where this pulse trigger actually ends, but I'm going to make it sync with the edge of the portal. And then I also want to go and apply that exact same formula for these saws to link everything together. There we go. I'm going to add these kind of spikes on the same format again. They're just going to sit right on top of these ground spikes. It's going to float there. Because I never like having my ground spikes just being flat on the ground, I prefer to have stuff build from them. And I honestly think that looks pretty cool. It looks quite fragmented in a way. You'll see right now that I've included some black circles within the saws, and I am planning to go and give them the same groups as what is on the corresponding pulse. So as you can see, when this block pulses, this circle will also pulse, and that will add to the effect. I want to change the opacity of the mask blocks in this section as it goes on, because I feel like it's a little bit too much at some parts. I would rather there be a pulse that reduces this, because A, it makes it cleaner, and B, it brings some variety in its aesthetic going all the way through. Color 9, which is normally black, changes to a dark shade of blue, which is reflected in the 50% opacity version, color channel 8, and also the mask color. Okay, I'm probably done with this wave now. I'm very happy with how the colors turned out. I think it's looking very perky. Not sure how this transition is going to work exactly, but I'm sure I'll find a way. I've been tampering with the transition out of the cube before the UFO. Basically, it toggles on a small circle above the player so you can see what's going on this pulse. I think it works pretty well. I've also changed the first jump to a yellow jump pad just to make this a little bit easier to see and sight read. When you go down to the same level as this portal, there are 2 blocks right here that make sure you can't jump out of the way for this circle right here to be locked onto the player's X and Y coordinates. Coming out of the wave, you can see a color 6 loop on 0.4, then it goes to 0.6, then it has the long fade to 1, which is quickly turned off to 0.6, and then slowly fades out to 0. Then color channel 6 has a pulse, which is the bright blue. It's the same hue as the one in the background, just a lot brighter. So it all comes together to form a pretty neat transition. All I had to do was make the object lines in this part T3, so they would show up above the black screen overlay. I've put in some spikes right here, just randomly distributing some numbers from the color loops onto them. I think they look pretty cool. There's also a bit of a brightness difference. I decreased the brightness by minus 0.3, and I think it looks pretty decent so far. I have got a little idea for the ground spikes in this UFO. Alright, so on this portal transition, these spikes are going to seamlessly come in with the toggle trigger perfectly aligned with the color trigger that turns off the overlay. 328 is the top row, 329 is the bottom row. I want them to be both moved in 20 initially. I'm trying to fill up dead areas of the screen at the top and bottom because these edges are really hard to decorate against the ground spikes. Now there's a couple of things I forgot to do. 327 needs to lock onto the x-axis while also moving 400 blocks to the left for 15 seconds on ease in, just so it gets faster and faster. I also want it to pulse. I want to bring back that white colour that I've been using in every single part up until this. I've added some regular black glow on T3 to tie in with the ground. Then behind that on T2, behind the actual spikes, there's some more glow. Alright, I've tweaked it a little bit colour-wise and movement-wise. Hopefully this is smooth. Hopefully this is fair gameplay too. It seems to be alright so far. And there you go. I think that is the smoothest it is going to get. I deleted the pulse. I changed the spikes to one of the colors in the color loop. And I just overlapped a couple of these easings just to make the movement very smooth off and on. This glow behind this layer of spikes is now half opacity black. And I added this bottom part to this overlay glow because there was a crack at the bottom going into the portal. Okay, so at the end of this UFO, I've brought back the same transition as what I had earlier with the white circle, with the same pulse on the beat as well. The only thing is, this is now a single color channel fade in when this used 2 because it was a longer build up here. This is a much shorter build up to this flash, so I'm only using 1, which is 1.25 seconds long. Here we go, you're about to see it right here. I think that's super smooth once again. A really cool touch actually would be to make this circle fade back in right towards the end. Just like that, and then it can quickly fade out at the end too when the screen goes black. So with these color loops, the middle number is 13 on the first one and the middle number is 18 on the second one. So I've put 13 on the top and 18 on the bottom one. That might spice it up a lot. Gonna go ahead and change these to white because I noticed that I made the first couple of circles white on the transition. I thought I'd continue it. It also makes that link of the object lines and also these pulsing things too. So as you can see in this UFO, I've fixed some of the layering issues with these lines. I had the lines on T3 for the transition, which were above the spikes, so if you noticed that, I am very sorry. Ooh, that is looking nice and glowy on the saw. So we've got color 13 for this side, color 18 for this side, and then we've got some bright blending copy color 2 glow on top of the saw. We've got a problem here. Gonna have to go and copy the values of this, go and get the half glow object, then just flip it into place like that. That should be seamless. Let's see the latest creation on the saws. I think it's looking pretty good. I like having the double-sided glow with different colors on. I think that looks pretty cool. But for these arrows in the beginning, I think I'm going to remake them and add glow on top so they tie in. Okay, so this on 18. Then we can get a small glow object right here. Shove that on top. And then use the blending color of 2. Behind this, I've added a half opacity black bit of glow, and it's also on 258, so it's barely visible, but it's there. Alright, so I've copied the glow from the middle of the saws. I've also put it on the portals with group 258, so it's a bit more subtle that way. It's looking good to me. Just need to fill in a couple more empty spaces, and this ship part will be done. Okay. I have literally no idea why I wasn't doing this before, but I've put some detail on editor layer 18 as you can see, and it's going underneath this mask. I could raise this left hand side of the mask up to editor layer 14, while raising this decoration up to editor layer 13, and this will make it show on the right hand side of the screen and then curve off on the left while keeping the effect the same. Alright, let's take a look in normal mode. There we go. I've finally done something that makes this part feel whole. I'm happy with this. I really like how this is masked. I'm going to do the same with this background right here. Just going to up the Z order to 14 and we'll be good to go. I'm only going to use this for a couple of blocks in this part because I found out that when they overlap, it looks a little bit ugly. I got away with it in this part because the lines in the background are very thin and you can barely see the texture of these blocks above them, but in the next part the lines are very thick. Alright, I've went and reverted this to layer 12 and I've also went and changed these two blocks to Z order 5. There we go. You just see it looks a lot more smooth right there. Alright, I'm taking yet another break. I'm going to show you how the level looks in its entirety so far, and then I'll decorate the final two parts of the level. Okay, so I just found out that my mic was off when I was building some of the stuff in this part. I used this chart right here that I didn't delete when I was making the designs to make these long, ropey, chainy looking things. They just cycle through 16 to 20. I also added these objects as a base for the portals and the orbs, and then I went and changed the top layer of the mask to B3 so that these could be blending without any issues. The small spikes have 18 on the detail and the big spikes have 20 on the detail, and they all fall into 331. The song has two very distinct beats, like a ch-ch, and I want to make a pulse that turns the spikes on and off to different colors. Using main only and detail only, we can manipulate the spike to make only the outline pulse a color, or only the detail pulse a color, or both, which is what I'm going to do. The main is going to black and the detail is going to white. Then I'm also going to go and change the object line to black. Let's test it out. There we go. Nice sync. Doesn't really affect much, but it's a subtle pulse. I like that. I think it works. It doesn't distract from the gameplay. Very cool, very nice. To the end. I was looking at this part and I was thinking, what's missing? And then I realised there's no saws. Only this part of the level has saws, nothing else. I've added some saws and they also follow the 331 group pulse. Some of them look a little bit out of place, but with a little bit of decoration to bring them in, I think they will look pretty decent. I kind of like this decoration I've put on it. I'm using the hexagons, I've also got these squares, and it all follows the 331 pulse, as you can see right there. I want to link some more aspects of the decoration together, so I'm going to be using a big hexagon on its side for the background of the arrows, and then I'm going to be using this block right here, which is going to be on white to link to the middle of these saws. I think that will work, but I'm going to put it on 331, so it will pulse white. In fact, I'm going to use this object instead because it's a much more clear arrow. Alright, there we have our arrows. And bang, I think this part is nearly done. There's a couple more areas that I do need to sweep up on, but I'm liking how patchy it feels with the big hexagons and the big saws. Those stars should not be sitting above that pulse. That is outrageous. Part of me just wants to leave the end like this. I wasn't a fan of the structures that I did in episode 1. I kind of want to just have them really plain and simple. And then what we do is we select all. We set to group 333. That is a very nice group to end off with. We just stick an alpha trigger at the end. 333. 0 opacity. Bang, right there. That is the level done in my eyes. I'll show you the full thing, and then you've got to wait until episode 7 when I get a couple of playtesters in, I make a couple of changes, blah blah blah. So thank you very much for watching Build Week. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the experience. Have a good day.